everyone, my name is Christine.
Hi, Christine.
So when I first read the prompt, my initial thought was to question the validity of the experiment for myself. Because in my mind, when I think about respect, I try to treat everyone I encounter with respect. This simply is the act of being courteous. It's holding the door open for others. It's looking someone in the eyes when speaking with them, and it's simply saying my thank yous. But as I made a conscious effort to really try to communicate non-verbally respect over this past weekend, I came to the uncomfortable truth that perhaps I do not convey respect at all times to everyone. And I think part of this stems from my belief that respect comes from admiration of someone's abilities, achievements, or qualities. And essentially, this is respect is earned. However, I will tell you 3 stories about the good, the bad, and the ugly of my experience over the past weekend, and how it was I came to realize that respect comes from everyone deserves to be respected. So the first story, which is the good, takes place at Trader Joe's. And so I was walking out of the grocery store, as usual, over the weekend, and this lady walks past by me. And she is kind of wearing an eccentric-looking outfit. It's kind of like gypsy meets hippie. But I look at her, and she actually looks back at me. And so I smile, but I have my earbuds in, so I continue to look down and pack my stuff in my bag. But she actually walks over to me, and she talks to me. So I take out my earbuds, and I look at her, and she asks me, "Oh, where'd you get your backpack?" And so I tell her, and then she asks about my earrings, and I tell her where I got that too. It's a little bit strange of a conversation, but we end up talking for 20 minutes, and I learn about her garden in her backyard, her past trip to IKEA, and her psychedelic experiences in college. Although this wasn't really life-changing, what this experience showed me that someone who I normally would have overlooked was someone I really enjoyed having a conversation with. And it showed me that by respecting everyone, I can learn a lot about new experiences and have new viewpoints. So the second story takes place in my apartment and involves my roommate, who I've known for 3 years and I've lived with for 2. Over the years, we've really gotten to know each other, but this is kind of the bad part. Throughout that time as well, I've lost my respect for her, and I don't know really how that happened, but it was just a series of events. But over this past weekend, I really tried to make a conscious effort to show non-verbally respect. And for me, this meant washing her dishes in the sink when I knew she was busy, or it meant dropping everything when she was talking to me to completely focus my attention on her, or it simply meant just smiling. It was really the latter that elicited the most positive response, but to be honest with you, I didn't really get any change in our relationship, and the unfortunate truth about this was that I actually just felt bad about the experience because I felt like I was being fake. I wasn't being true to how I felt deeply inside. And it's not that I should ever disrespect anyone, but it's not that I shouldn't give out false intentions if that's not how I feel. And so that is what I learned. And the last story is the ugly truth. And so throughout this whole experiment, I've been thinking to myself, what does respect mean, and who do I not respect enough in my life? And I thought about the homeless individuals in Westwood, because throughout the years I've given change here and there, and I've even offered my food a few times, but I think in general I avert my eyes when I walk by because I feel uncomfortable. I feel uncomfortable saying no, and I feel guilty by not stopping. And I think even sometimes I shake my head no, silently, thinking to myself, oh, well, if I pretend like I didn't hear it, it actually didn't happen. But this is the sad truth. It's that in those moments, by doing that, I have ignored a fellow human being and I have disrespected them. And I think that by trying to change this, over this past weekend, I went to Westwood, and every time I looked at them, or if I passed by them, I tried to look at them or smile at them. And nothing really changed, but I became more conscious of my actions, and it brought me to the attention of the lady at Trader Joe's. It's that everyone has a story if you just take the time to listen to it. And so in my life, I've had some experiences that have made me grow up really fast, and sometimes I forget that I'm only 20 years old, and part of that means that I still have a lot of growing up to do, and I have a lot of learning about myself to do. And I've come to realize that I have to improve on certain things. And in this regard, I have learned about respect, and I learned that it has to be given, and it's not necessarily something that has to be earned. So to really wrap it all up, unless proven otherwise, I truly have come to realize that respect is what everyone deserves, and if you give them a chance, you could really learn something. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's start over here. What did you like? Thank you for waiting outside.
Hi, Damon.
What is your name?
Damon.
Damon. Hi, Damon.
I liked how it was very organized and how you had specific key points of what you learned after every story.
Uh-huh. The little moral to the story, yeah. Okay, improvement?
I'm Olivia.
Hi, Olivia.
I think you did a great job. What I would work on for next time is like fluctuating your voice a little bit more. You have like a pretty soft voice, but to add like to make people hear like the great stuff you're saying more, if you kind of like speak up sometimes or like vary how you're speaking so that it like keeps the listener interested.
Okay, those are good suggestions. Christine, I liked your speech. I thought it was very thoughtful. The Good at Trader Joe's was a good story. I noticed you had to take off your earphones to make connection with that. That's a story in and of itself about how that keeps certain people away or at bay. On the bad story about your roommate, it sounds like there's a long history of disrespect coming from her that maybe you're tired of, and that's probably what's fueling your weariness and trying to continue to be respectful toward her. Yeah, and the epiphany you had on the with the homeless in Westwood, yeah. I think that was thoughtful and telling the way you told that story. I agree that you can be a little louder, maybe move 3 times so that you're work this side of the room, work that side of the room for each of your points. But overall, you did a nice job. Thank you. How you doing? Perfect.
Hi everyone, my name is Eunice, and
Hi, Eunice.
and I will begin. Respect. When society hears the term respect, oftentimes what immediately comes to their mind is the image of a person they admire and look up to. And sure, that is a definite form of respect. But today, I'd like to focus on discussing respect in its simplest form, in everyday life. You see, respect isn't just a feeling associated with admiration for someone you admire or like a role model. Respect can be, showing up to an interview on time, choosing not to be distracted by your phone during a lecture, or even nodding a thanks to your server before leaving a restaurant. Now, at this point, you may argue, but isn't that just courtesy? But see, that's exactly the point. Respect is a sign of courtesy. It's a sign of appreciation for another being. And in order to provide you with a greater understanding of this respect, I will be presenting to you 3 stories today: the good, the bad, and the ugly. For 48 hours following our first class together, we all partook in demonstrating nonverbal respect towards other beings in our vicinity. Now, in doing so, we came across a wide range of responses. Let's first consider my good response. So exactly 2 minutes after our first class, I was walking down the stairs of this very building. And of course, I kept running into people who were coming up the stairs. Naturally, each of us shifted to another side in order to avoid a collision. And that was actually it. There weren't any mumbled excuse me's or sighs of exasperation. We simply just shifted to the side and moved on. And you see, following this experience, I came to realize, in the end, it was a mutual respect from both sides. And this mutual respect is surprisingly evident in so many other aspects of our daily lives. Take, for example, changing lanes when driving, or even staying quiet in the library. This mutual respect is essentially what keeps our community stable and flowing smoothly with a productive environment. So that was the good, and of course with the good also comes the bad. 28 hours into our experiment, I was walking down in Westwood toward Chili Ribbons, where I work. And as I'm walking, a middle-aged man comes up to me, he stops me, he points to the Halloween store and asks me, "Hey, do you think that's open year-round?" Now, I don't want to seem pretentious or even disrespectful, but at the same time, I don't want to, risk coming off a little too friendly to a man who's looking at me a little too intently for my comfort in the middle of LA. So I turn to him and I give him a slight smile and I reply, "No, actually, I think it's just open for the season." And then I continue and head on to work. When I get to work, I change into my work uniform, and when I come back out, I find that same man ordering a dessert. He then lingers around the restaurant for a good 30 minutes alone, and then he finally leaves. Now, I'm not saying he was some creepy stalker out to get me, but at the same time, I just wanted to tell you one thing I became aware of following this experience. The truth of the matter is, everyone has a different context in the situation. And so, respect, though a commendable act, does not always have to be forced into a situation. You see, respect requires sincerity, and when forced, it loses its value. And at the same time, when it loses its value, it can also be interpreted in a way that was not your intention. Now, respect with all its glory can be lost, and that's when the ugly side of respect comes out. 30 hours into our experiment, I came across a customer at work who ignored me completely. When I asked to take her order, she just stood there a couple of minutes talking to her friends. So finally, when I smiled and asked her a third time, she turned to me and ordered. But again, she was speaking more to her friends than to myself. Now, obviously in this situation, there was a lack of respect, both on her part and eventually even on mine, as I came to lose respect for her in return. Following this experience, I came to realize that respect is there's actually very scary truth about respect. Respect, when lost, is a process that's nearly irreversible, because when respect is lost, it's gone, right? When respect is lost, it's like People often say that you can gain respect back. But the truth of the matter is, when you try to gain respect back, it's kind of like trying to make a broken cookie whole again. The thing is, when it's broken, you can try, but the ugly truth is, it just simply cannot be pieced back to its original state. In considering all of these experiences as a whole, I came to understand that respect is a powerful form of communication that is capable of not only creating strong relationships, but also maintaining stable societies. The truth is, without respect, life would be terribly difficult to live, right? It's in a world where there is no respect, there wouldn't be a smooth transition in society. And so essentially, without respect, there wouldn't be a productive environment. So in doing so, respect is something that can be lost at any time. So we must take care to communicate it properly while we still have it. That way we can all live peacefully and amicably. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We're here for some feedback. Yes, please.
I'm Julia.
Hi, Julia.
I thought you did a really great job. You enunciated all your words very clearly, and it was really easy to understand. And I also really liked how you made it relatable to the audience and saying we partook in this experiment, and everyone when talking about respect and we should. So that was nice because it made me feel more encouraged.
Improvement.
I could say something. Hi.
Yeah, we're going right down the row, so it's your turn.
Oh, good. Okay.
No, your turn. Yes, we're going right down this row. Your turn. Yeah, you. No, right here in the front row. Front row. Yeah, you.
Okay. Me.
Yeah,
Okay.
me.
I'll say something. Okay. Hi, I know we're all really scared of this.
Start with
mostly.
your name,
My name's
please.
Brianda.
Hi, Brianda.
Hi. I know we're all kind of scared of this, and like it's inevitable that when you're out there, you're gonna stumble a little bit. Like I'm sitting here thinking about how that's gonna happen to me probably, but the thing is that we just have to really try not to be nervous about it because you were really good and you started out so confident, and then you stumbled a little bit, and I think you let it get to you, which is natural. But maybe you could just try to kind of be a little easier on yourself because you're really good.
Yes, I like your speech. I want you to work on being extemporaneous. You really practiced this a lot, and so it became, I think why you stumbled is you were trying to get exact phrases, and you don't want to do that. You want to say it, practice it in your own words each time, and say it differently a little each time, and that way you won't stumble. I liked your introduction and your observations about courtesy and respect and all those things, and you had a good preview, and so that was excellent. On the your first observation about stairs and letting people in on the freeway and so forth, I think that was wise, and that's true, and that was good. I wanted to hear a little bit about you repeating the mantra, I respect you, and how it worked. On the man, I guess it was a man, right, that asked you whether the Halloween store was open year-round. And he turned out to go into where you worked and lingered, sort of strangely. We have, I think I went into this a little bit last meeting, but we have had reports of men not understanding a simple smile doesn't mean I want you sexually. And it's very sad that that's given off, that's interpreted that way. And what this all boils down to, in addition to the very wise things you say, you need to remember that meaning is in the receiver, see? And that's where ultimately meaning is given to a smile. And sadly, some men give a smile to mean certain things that weren't intended. And that's the sad thing. So I think you handled it wisely and carefully, you know. On your third story, yeah, I think that the respect really... it's hard to get back. It's you can't go down to the thrifty drugstore or whatever is left. Is there still thrifty drugstore? I guess it's Buy Right now, or Rite Aid now. You can't go down to the Rite Aid drugstore and pick up a little more trust or respect. You know, when trust is gone, it's really gone, and it's really hard to buy more of it. You can't, and so I think you're right about that. You stumbled a little on your ending. But that was okay. You regained your footing, and that was fine. Work on a little vocal variety, but you really knew what you wanted to say, and you said it well, and you did the assignment in the spirit of the assignment, which I like. So you did a nice job. Thank you. Go for it.
Okay.
I don't know. Look around your audience. Is anybody texting on their computer? Managing attention, communicating respect, finding friendly eyes near the front and the center. Say your name, feel the love. Start your speech.
Hi, I'm Zoe.
Hi, Zoe.
So when Professor Miller asked us what we thought respect was, I immediately thought about how to respect others. And then someone said something that stood out to me. He said, in order to respect others, you must respect yourself first. And during this assignment, practicing respect non-verbally, I became more aware of how others' actions and body language reflected who they were as a person, and how my actions reflected who I was. So here's the good, the bad, and the ugly. The other day, I was walking my 8 a.m. class. I was in a rush, and I was running late. And right as I I was about to cross the street, the crossing guard stopped me and started letting the cars go by. And I was immediately annoyed and wanted to passive-aggressively ignore him. And then I turned towards him and I asked him how he was doing. And his face immediately lit up. And he said, "Oh, good morning. Where are you going?" I told him I was going to art class. And he said, "Okay, see the next Monet, the next Picasso, and be seeing your stuff in the big galleries." And I told him maybe if he was lucky I'd give him my autograph. And even walking to class today, I saw him and he pulled out a napkin and he's like, "So, Steve Jobs said, those who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones that do. Do you think you're crazy enough?" I said, "I don't know, maybe." And I just realized that when I stopped and showed him respect, I not only got a great conversation out of it, but I felt better about myself, and I really did have a good day. My next story began in my art class when Professor Palema told us that we'd be doing an exercise. So we came into a square room like this, and we all sat against the wall, and she told one girl to stand in the middle of the room. And then she said, "Stand there for 3 minutes without talking, and I'll tell you when to switch with the next person." So we continue this exercise for over an hour. It's kind of like this, except no one talks, and we just switch places, and everyone's staring at you. And none of us in the class really know each other. So that was kind of hard for me, because being a perfectionist, I tend to judge myself and think about how others judge me. And so during the exercise, I tried to practice respect by thinking positively and being open to the judgment of others. And in the end, I realized how important my thoughts were in determining how I acted. And for the last and ugly story, later that day, during rush, I was standing outside a house with a group of girls, and one girl in particular chose to make a huge scene, and she stood there and slouched down and looked really uninterested and sighed a lot. And then she turned towards me, making sure everyone would hear her, and just said, do I really have to go into this house right now? Like, God. Maybe I'll just say I have to go to the bathroom, even though you're not supposed to. Whatever. And I saw the faces of other girls fall who were excited to go into that house, and it would be really easy to join in and make myself feel better by putting others down. But I chose to not join in and not laugh with her, and I didn't acknowledge her. And I not only felt better about myself as a person, but she just made a fool of herself. And in the end, I realized that if I wanted to respect myself, I had to start by showing others respect, and not just people who I thought were more experienced than me or more accomplished, but people who I saw every day, like the crossing guard. And if I wanted to respect myself, I had to think positively in order to act positively. And in the end, I had to make sure to not give in to the tempting moment and criticize others.
Hi, I'm Isabel.
What is your name?
Isabel.
Hi, Isabel.
Hi. So that was really great. I liked how you were just really natural and you seemed really calm and it wasn't rehearsed, and it seemed like you were just kind of talking to us, and I really appreciated your use of humor. It definitely stood out as unique among all the speeches we heard.
Thank you.
Thank you, Isabel.
Hey, my name is Shelby.
Hi, Shelby.
I thought you did a really good job as well. I feel like I was right there in the stories with you. The one thing I would improve on is maybe having a little more energy when you're speaking, just to get the audience really engaged in the beginning. But overall, I think you did a really good job.
Right, and your energy, Zoe, at the end really got very low. Like you ended not with a bang, but almost with a whimper. So you want to end on really a climax, really, knock us out in the end. Well, you made some observations about respect in the beginning of what you thought about it, and then you gave us a preview. I would have liked you to have highlighted a little more each of your paragraphs of it. Let me give you the good first with your voice, so we knew what was going on. I like the crossing guard story. They're like the other people I've talked about, the McDonald's people and other people that are really the thankless people in our society. They have a very difficult job and they're not acknowledged. And I thought that he engaged you in a very interesting way, and he remembered you and engaged you, interestingly enough, the next day with a Steve Jobs quote. I thought that was interesting. So that was an interesting story, and I liked your summing up about it. On your nonverbal staring at everybody in the class for your second story, you described that you had some discomfort at being stared at and so forth, and so you used this exercise of emanating a respectful vibe as a sort of a way of getting through it, and that was interesting. On the Greek recruitment, I guess the girl that wasn't going to be a recruit, I guess, because of her attitude, but still you didn't condemn her and you gave her a modicum of respect, I guess is what you were saying. You didn't condemn her like the other girls did. I guess that was good. In the end, I wanted to have more of a summary, and so here's what I learned, and end on a real powerful note. But overall, you did a good job. You got into the spirit of the exercise, and so that was good. So continue repeating the mantra and see if it doesn't pay dividends for you. Thank you. Okay, right here. Right here, yeah. No, you, yeah. Right here, right. Yeah, oh, yeah. The one in front of you. But...
I'm Olivia.
Hi, Olivia.
Okay, I don't know if you guys have ever heard when people talk about like doing community service or doing something to help others. Sometimes they say something along the lines of, it was more beneficial to me than to them. And I found that to be true of the respect assignment, that, you know, you're going to have good experiences and bad experiences, but in the end, I think what was most meaningful to me was how trying to show respect to other people affected me. So the first story, I was at the grocery store, and this lady turned around and knocked over like a whole bunch of boxes, and I kind of instinctively like bent down to help her pick them up. But as I started repeating like, I respect you in my head, what changed wasn't the fact that I bent down to pick her up. I think I helped her pick stuff up. I think I might have done that regardless of the assignment. But what changed was I felt my eyes like literally lift up to her head and look her in the eyes instead of looking at like what she was wearing or where she was going. And I didn't think about what anyone else in the store was thinking of me or anything else that was going on. And I realized that in that moment, as I was repeating, I respect you, what I was doing was giving her my undivided attention. And it's kind of hard to realize that it actually took me a minute to recognize what giving someone undivided attention felt like. But I definitely see how, as you're repeating respect, you kind of change the way you're interacting with people and like fully focus on them. So I thought it was a good like mutual respect story, and she seemed really grateful. The bad story was I was picking up a friend at the airport, and you know, like at LAX, it's kind of, you know, circular, and you're not supposed to pull over like before your person is there to get in the car. So we pulled over because our friend had like a whole bunch of bags, and she had her dog with her. And so we pull over, and we had barely like gotten to the curb before the security guard comes like running over and just starts screaming at us that like, you can't pull over unless your person's getting in the car, and like blah blah blah. And I was like trying to think, I was like, oh my gosh, respect assignment, like this is a great opportunity. So I was like, let her finish what she was saying before we kind of like pointed out. We were like, yeah, we're just like helping her get her bags, like she's right there. and I expected her to kind of like be embarrassed that she had yelled at us, and she was not. She just kind of said like, well, next time, like, don't pull over and wait. Like, next time you need to like go around until your person's there. And we were like, okay. So it wasn't really a good experience in that she didn't really like show respect to us. But what I noticed again about how it made me feel was that I felt less personally offended by what she did when I thought about respecting her and about how she, has a hard job, and that job kind of sucks because a lot of people do like loiter around LAX and cause traffic jams. And it just made me think like she probably had a stressful day, and I didn't like carry that negative experience with me for the rest of the day. What became the uglier experience for me, I guess, and what was harder to handle was when I felt like a friend was disrespecting me. I think maybe there's a difference between a stranger and a friend because you expect more than just general respect from your friend. You expect love and support. And so what happened was we were getting ready for like our bid night and for like our girls to come in, and my friend and I were in charge of like having food at the beginning, and the budget's pretty tight, and you're trying to feed like close to 200 people, so it's like kind of a big job, and we worked really hard to try to like do something cool and not just have like boxes of pizza or something at the door. And so we'd spent all day like getting all of this food, and we came up with this like whole entire Sunday bar, and we had like all of these cute decorations. We were like trying to make it look cool and fun, and I thought it was a great idea. But I like went to tell my friend about it, and I was so pumped about my idea, and all she responded with was, "I don't like ice cream," which like first of all is weird, but second of all, and then she like immediately went to go complain about something else that had happened to her that day. And I felt super disrespected that she didn't really like listen to me, and that she like immediately then turned it to something about her when I had been excited to tell her something good that happened to me. And I tried to like think about the mantra in my head, like, okay, like I'm gonna respect her, like this is my friend, but it still seemed like there was something missing. And I guess that's because you do expect more out of a friendship than you expect that like love and support. So it was harder for me to not take it personally when it was a friend versus a stranger. But overall, in the experiment, I guess I think people are right when they say that doing things for others it changes you more than it changes them. People won't necessarily remember like that weird girl that smiled at them on Bruin Walk, but when you're walking around thinking that you respect everyone around you, what was meaningful to me was I just noticed like my mouth curl into a smile more often as I was walking to class, and I noticed myself feel relaxed and at ease, and I think it has to do with focusing less on yourself and focusing more on other people. And the more you focus on other people, the less your problems kind of start to fall away because you realize that maybe you're not as important as you think you are all the time. So to me, the respect assignment was about how it made you feel. And there's always going to be people who disrespect you, and you have good experiences and bad experiences no matter what. But, you can't control other people, and you only control yourself. So I guess being respectful to others isn't necessarily going to make them respect you back, and it doesn't really mean that you'll have any less negative experiences, but maybe, like what happened for me, the negative experiences won't bother you quite so much, and the world in general would seem like a little bit brighter.
Thank you. Okay, we're somewhere along this first row. Here, yeah.
Well, I really like it.
Start with your name.
Pauline.
Pauline.
Yeah.
Hi, Pauline.
Hi. I really like your speech. In fact, I completely agree with your conclusion in your introduction, and you'll see that I got pretty much the same conclusions and thoughts. So yeah, I thought it was really thoughtful and well wrapped, and the Does that word even exist? I'm French. I'm not sure. But yeah, I thought it was nice. It seemed like a conversation, and I found it entertaining. So.
Yeah, thank you, Pauline. Improvement?
Hi again, I'm Eunice.
Hi, Eunice.
Hi. Well, first off, I just want to compliment you. You seem really bright and energetic, so I feel like that energy just came into us too. But just for improvement, I guess next time maybe because I noticed you looking at the ceiling or the floor a lot, but just manage some eye contact more, I guess, with the audience. But other than that, you're really good.
Olivia, I really liked your speech. I thought it was tremendously thoughtful and well presented. And I think that your thesis, that ultimately it redounds to you, and even though it's the focus on others, that it pays dividends to each individual that practices giving respect. So that was good. On the first story of helping the lady pick up the boxes, but doing it with making eye contact and repeating the mantra, that's really makes the difference, because then that makes it a real meaningful and human connection. And so that worked beautifully, and so that was good. And that I think that her gratefulness was probably enhanced by your making eye contact with her. On your airport bad story, dogs and bags at the airport sound like a nightmare anyway. Yeah, but I think you diffused the situation fairly well, and I think you played it just right, and you said, and by repeating the mantra, at least she didn't give you a ticket, which you could have. And so I think that was handled fairly well, and I think you got the idea about how to handle this kind of situation. On the sorority, I don't know about your friend. Your friend sounds self-absorbed to me. But to come up with a non sequitur after you say something like that, well, I don't like ice cream, seems like, lights on, nobody home. I don't know. But I appreciate you still acknowledging that despite repeating the mantra, you still acknowledge that you felt hurt and felt bad about the fact that she didn't really acknowledge your hard work and all that went into you trying to make this a good experience for the rush and so forth. I like your closing comments. I thought they were thoughtful and well done. Good energy, just better eye contact, but you did a good job. Thank you. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Which one?
Right here.
Okay.
Hi, how you doing?
I printed with a French format, and it's weird we put it out, but...
Okay, we'll live. We'll live with the French format. Okay. She's reading, wait for her.
So, hi everyone, I'm Pauline.
Hi, Pauline.
I'm an exchange student from France, so I hope you won't mind the stumble too much. When I was given this assignment, it reminded me of this talk I had with my brother once, who strongly believes in the respect is earned, not given phrase. Which is funny because here we were asked to do the exact opposite. We heard several definitions of respect here, all true, I think. It came to me that respect can be understood as some kind of sensitivity towards people, some kind of delicacy. That's how I would describe it in my own words. That's what I try to communicate to everyone I met recently. As you'll see, I got mixed results.
someone, like respecting someone should make that person feel good, but also make you feel good. That will be my good story, but you'll see better in a few seconds. But however, I also learned that respecting someone obviously doesn't mean that person will automatically respect you back. And lastly, the ugly emerged when I realized that the worst part is when you think respect is shared between two people, but actually isn't. But you'll explain. I'll explain better. So, I'll start with the good story. Last weekend, I was at a house party. I've been going to a lot of these recently with the aim of making new friends. And here I was in the corner of the room, talking with people, trying to have a conversation despite the loud music, when suddenly everyone became quiet and looked over my shoulder, staring at something. When I turned around, I saw this girl I didn't know embarrassing herself on the dance floor. She was super drunk, she could barely stand on her feet, and she was twerking with some guy. I'm not saying twerking is embarrassing, I mean, it's just that they were the only two people dancing, and she was, like, the guy was totally taking advantage of her, like slapping her butt and everything, so maybe it's a common thing in America, but we don't do it. So, yeah, I saw this show. And everyone was going crazy around me, like raising their cups and smiling, but they also had this really look of pity in their eyes and like commenting on what the girl was doing, and I even heard a guy next to me going all like, what a slut. So I believe that before this assignment I wouldn't have made any comment because I'm rather compassionate, I think, but I would probably have smiled or raised my eyebrows as a reaction to the show, like, you know. But I had the mantra going on in my head, I respect you, I respect you, I respect you. So instead, I focused and I stayed undisturbed as opposed to everyone around me who was smiling or commenting. The point was to respect her by not joining the general teasing, even if she wouldn't even know about it, because she was obviously too drunk to realize it. So that was the good story. The bad story now is also at a party with people. As I was saying, I was trying to socialize these days. So I met all these international students from all around the world, and I always applied the I respect you principle, and I think it worked because they acknowledged it by respecting me too. So we really, yeah, I got along with most of them. But there was this guy with whom it really didn't work out. We were all sitting at the table the last time I saw him, and wait, for the sake of objectivity, I have to say that every time I saw him, he was completely drunk, even if it were like in the afternoon. He's not even French. So, but yeah, here we were at this table, talking, and I was listening to him, being polite, hearing what he had to say, but it wasn't really working. All he could do was staring at my boobs. I was like, they're not going to answer, you know? Or like silencing me whenever I try to speak, or trying to provoke me by enumerating these stereotypes about French people. So at the end, I really, like, that was the point where it became a challenge to respect him. So I switched seats with someone as soon as I could, and I avoided him for the rest of the night. So I believe I failed to do so, to respect him, I mean. So that would be the bad story. And finally, the ugly. The first girl I talked about, I didn't know her. The guy I just talked about, I barely knew him. But the person I'm going to talk about now was a girl I actually knew. Not for long, not intimately, but enough for her to be listed here. We met at this exchange student thing organized at UCLA. And she was from Europe, just like me. So we really got along, and we went to the bank together because we both had to open an account. And we ended up spending the entire afternoon together. We talked, exchanged personal stories, our Facebook accounts, our phone numbers, and I thought we connected, and that I was like really happy to have found this friend because it was like one of my first days here. But ever since that day, every text she sent me, every few contacts I've had with her was her talking to me about administrative procedures or how to deal with this or that homework or thing, but nothing really personal. She wasn't interested at all in pursuing that kind of friendship that I thought we started. And I invited her to a few events with my new friends, but she wouldn't really, like, she didn't even have the courtesy to answer. She would send me a text 2 days later going on like, oh, sorry, I was busy. Yeah. So that was the ugly, because when I saw her a few times, she was with her friends, and she wouldn't even introduce me or whatever. She would just awkwardly go like, hi, and then move to another place quickly with an excuse. So I bitterly thought of this assignment and told myself that it wasn't very respectful of her. And that would be the ugly part, when you respect someone, and since you think that person is your friend, you really expect friendship and respect back, but then find out that that person didn't even respect you at all. So those were my 3 stories. One of them was about a stranger, compassion for a stranger. That was the good one. The bad one was about not getting respect back from an acquaintance, and the ugly one was about how respect, how about, respect is not shared and you thought it was, and it hurts. So I'll finish on just this thought, candid thought. In French, candid also means naive, so I think it's both frank and naive. It's just that I figured in our Western societies we place great value in respect, as we all talked about it. But we place even greater value in the self, in ourselves, which is why I think the phrase respect is earned, not given is so popular today. By pushing me to behave differently, this assignment made me realize concretely how this world would be a better place if everyone would just switch their motto from respect is earned, not given to I respect you, no matter what, and how long the road is till this might have a chance to happen. So what I learned from this assignment, and those would be my last words, is that although you may not get respect back from people, it is still worth a try.
Thank you.
Me? Okay. My name's Blake.
Hi, Blake.
I thought you were really natural and used a lot of humor, so everyone was really engaged. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
I'm Zoe.
Hi, Zoe.
I thought your speech was really good and engaging too. The only thing is probably having your thoughts more organized towards the end. I think that would be good.
Okay. Well, Pauline, you sort of started off apologizing for being French or something, and you didn't need to because you speak beautifully, and you were fine, you were fluent, and you were understandable and all that. So don't apologize, just not necessary. You talked about your brother, and you ended on your brother, and so I liked your bookends of going the full circle, so that was good. I liked your observational thoughts that you had in the beginning, and I thought that your preview was a little, I would call it awkward or ham-handed. You couldn't tell whether to tease us with giving us the full story or not. You kept saying, well, you'll see, you'll see. I think maybe it would have been a little just more effective to say, I'm going to tell you about the good, the bad, the ugly, and let it go at that. On the good, yeah, I think that that was an awful situation to look at and to see, and it's awful to see somebody drunk and making a fool of themselves. and yet you handled it with class and grace. And I like that you kept the respect mantra going and didn't join in the crowd of slut, whore, and all that stuff. And that was good. So you didn't get into the main reaction to her, that general teasing. I actually thought your second story was the ugliest, but again, it concerns alcohol and it concerns males, but I think that you handled it right by moving away from a drunk male that is insulting you, and there's no point in continuing to give somebody respect when they're insulting you, your culture, and sexually assaulting you with his eyes. There's no reason to take that, just wrong. On your third story, I could sense your disappointment in the not getting a friendship reciprocated from this young lady, and I don't know what the problem was, but it was good, but still I think you handled it fairly well. I liked your ending, and I thought that you ran out of gas a little with your energy at the very end, so keep up your energy level for your ending. But I liked the way that you made reference to all the stories that you told and what you learned from them. So you did a nice job. Thank you. Thank you for waiting. You want to go next?
Sure.
Okay.
Is here good?
A little back. That's, yeah, you're good. You can go. You can go a little forward. You're good.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Nicole.
Hi, Nicole.
Hi. Okay, so respect is one of those things we've been, taught since kindergarten. Treat others the way you want to be treated. But I don't know, at least for me, like when we got this assignment, what I started thinking about is kind of actively communicating respect rather than just kind of sitting there and assuming that since you're not doing anything particularly disrespectful, like being rude or interrupting someone, that you're respecting them, because it's kind of not. And especially for me, I'm one of those people whose faces don't necessarily always kind of communicate their interest or emotion, and it can come off as kind of rude, I've learned as I've gotten older. So for my starting point for this experiment, I just wanted to make sure that I really show people that I am interested in them and that I am giving them my respect. And over the past weekend, I had some experiences, some good, some bad, and some ugly. So the good one started right when I got back to my dorm. I was with my roommate, and I didn't mention the experiment or anything to her to kind of keep it accurate and stuff. And she kind of got talking about her background and where she was from, and she hadn't really opened up to me before this. So I was like, okay, I'm really going to try to do this and be respectful and make eye contact with her and show that I care about what she's saying. And she told me some really personal stuff about her life and her family that she never shared with me before. And it was really cool to kind of see her open up and tell me some more stuff, and I felt like it kind of helped our friendship kind of grow and develop. And I really don't think that would have happened if I had been rude or shown that I wasn't interested in what she had to say. So that was a really positive experience for me. A little while later, I had a kind of bad experience. I was on my way back from Rendezvous getting some food, and I had just a ton of stuff in my hands because, when you come back, you have just boxes and your bags and a wallet and a phone and whatnot. So then I get to the door, and trying to get out my key and stuff, I was just kind of fumbling all over the place, I don't know. And there was someone right on the other side of the window sitting on a couch who could clearly see me, and they weren't doing anything. And I kind of thought they might get up and open the door for me so I didn't, drop everything I just wasted a whole swipe on. And they just didn't. They just sat there and kind of looked at me, and I kind of looked back and smiled a little bit and just nothing. So I wound up getting my key out and getting into the building. But
it was just kind of a not good experience. They didn't necessarily disrespect me, but it was kind of a case where they're not actively showing respect and trying to help someone and just like being generally courteous, like when someone has a lot of stuff in their hands. So that was not good. And then later that night at the football game, I had a kind of ugly experience. I was saving spots for my friends at the game, and this guy just comes up and pushes his way through our row and sits in the empty seats. And I was like, I don't know, I'm pretty sure he's intoxicated. And so I said to him, these seats are saved, and I tried to be respectful and like make eye contact and like smile at him and not be rude or anything. And he just didn't look at me, and he just goes, sorry. And I'm like, okay. And then I'm like, why don't you move down to the row below us where no one was sitting, they weren't saving the seats or anything. And again, he just said, sorry. And I was like, okay. So then I just kind of ignored it and waited till my friends got back. And then when they did, like, we talked to him, and he just wouldn't say anything except sorry in a tone that clearly showed he was not sorry, and he really just didn't care that we were already sitting there. And he ended up getting kind of rude and just didn't really reciprocate the respect we were showing for him at all. And we ended up moving down to the empty seats because we didn't want to like start a whole scene or anything. But the people around him ended up getting really annoyed by him because he was being very, very rude and disrespectful to everyone around him, and the police ended up having to escort him out. So that turned out pretty ugly. And it was just kind of a case where you show respect to someone and they end up like actively disrespecting you, and it just wasn't pleasant or good or anything. So in the end of this experiment, I felt like I did learn a lot about respect, and it was a good reminder to actively be respecting people and showing your interest in them and making them feel like they're important and worthy of your time and energy, and just kind of like maintaining that. And I think it'll be good to like kind of carry on for the rest of my life.
Thank you. Remember to wait outside while someone's speaking, then come in. Yeah, good. Okay, where are we? We're somewhere here. Yeah.
Hi, Marcy.
Arzu.
I thought you did a good job with your stories. They were relatable. They all three of them clearly illustrated the respect points, and I thought you did a good job doing the experiment.
Thank you, Arzu. Improvement.
Hi, my name is Anne.
Hi, Anne.
And I think you did a really good job, Nicole, with starting making it feels like a conversation between everyone. I guess a little bit of improvement is you did actively try to make eye contact around the room, but sometimes I know that when you're trying to tease out your thoughts, you do look up and down a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So just keep that in mind a little. And your voice was very natural, but at the same time, I think it will help to feel a little more variation in the story. But overall,
Okay. Those are good thoughts, and maybe just a step forward, just a step closer would be good. Nicole, and go ahead and sit down. That's fine. Thank you for waiting, though. I meant Nicole. I liked your speech. You said respect is something we're all taught in kindergarten, and you talked about the fact that you normally you don't overtly generate or give out respect. You're more of a neutral kind of person, is I guess how you prefaced your presentation, right? And so this was called for a little land change for you, which I appreciate you telling us about, and so that was good. On your so the preview was good. So on your first story, I'm glad you didn't tell your roommate about the experiment. You kept it pure, and I'm glad that you got her to open up and tell more of her story. Everyone has a story, and you learned something good about her, and that deepened the relationship, and so that was very good. So I like that. You could have told, I noticed in here you had the details of some of what she told you. That would have been good to have shared with the group a little bit more. That would have been good. I am amazed at the lack of courtesy that's prevalent in our society these days, and what you saw with you sitting there needing obvious help and someone going, is kind of sad. Yeah, it's not so good, but there's no accounting for that except parents and upbringing and everything else, and the digital age, I think. The football thing, I think I put it down to mental illness and alcohol, and so I don't think this experiment works so well with inebriated, mentally ill people. But still, you were trying, and you did your best to do the experiment under difficult circumstances, so that was good. And I'm glad that you've decided to continue to try to do this more and to be more forward-going. One thing I would say as one of your goals that I hope you'll set is to try to move your arms more and gesture more. You held them nearly by your side the whole time. And you use a great deal as a transitional device, and so have your study buddy or whomever you practice with raise their hand every time you use You'll see you use it about 20 or 30 times in your speech, and so lose the ums and you'll be more effective. But overall, you did a nice job. Thank you. Okay.
Sorry, I don't have a stapler.
No stapler. Jeez. We'll break down and buy you one. So, managing attention, communicating respect, finding friendly eyes near the front and the center. Say your name, feel the love. Start your speech.
Hi guys, I'm Angelica.
Hi, Angelica.
So when we received this assignment to convey nonverbal respect to everybody for the next 48 hours, I first had to ask myself, how do I define respect? What is respect to me? And I kind of came to the conclusion that respect is about acknowledgement. Whether it's acknowledging somebody's abilities or their accomplishments, there's a lot of things that you can acknowledge. At the core of it, though, I thought that the most basic form of respect was acknowledging somebody's presence, that they exist. And I know that sounds really like common sense. Of course they exist. But it's one thing to know that a person exists, that they're flesh, their blood, that they're physical, and to know that a person exists, that behind that physical body, they have their own thoughts, their own feelings, their own situations. So with that in mind, I decided that I would try to convey nonverbal respect to people who seem to not always be acknowledged. I started with the UCLA crossing guards, and then my next phase was the dining hall workers on campus, and lastly, those people who hand out flyers on Bruin Walk. So, with the UCLA crossing guards, I tried to, whenever I crossed, I tried to make eye contact with them, smile, and say, good morning, or good afternoon, and thank you. And then I always received a positive response. The crossing guards immediately smiled back and said, oh, you're welcome, or thankful Thursday. And for me, that was a really positive experience because the acknowledgement and respect that I gave them was immediately given back to me. My second experience, now this is a little weird, but it happened at Genève Dining Hall. I was waiting in line for pizza, chicken pizza, and just as I went to the front of the line, the last piece of chicken pizza was handed out. Oh, no big deal, I thought. I'll just wait for the next chicken pizza to come out. And so I waited to the side, and I waited, because first came a cheese pizza, then a pepperoni pizza, and then another cheese pizza. And this whole time I was getting a little bit impatient, and I started to think, when will this pizza come out? I'm hungry. But I tried to think of it from the serving lady's point of view. She looked pretty busy, and she looked really stressed. And I tried to acknowledge her perspective. If I were a stressed dining hall lady trying to serve hungry college kids, I probably wouldn't appreciate it if these kids were always asking me when the next pizza would come out, because it'd be done when it'd be done, and no amount of asking would make it come out faster. And then so I waited to the side, and finally my chicken pizza came out, and I grabbed my slice. And this dining hall lady, she actually stopped and she told me, "Thank you for waiting. That was so amazing." And I was like, "I'm just waiting." And she told me that people tended to get very vocally impatient, and that it frustrated her because she wanted to, give these kids food, but she had no food. And then so she told me that she really appreciated me just standing in line quietly and patiently. And for me, that wasn't a bad experience in the sense that I received a bad reaction, but bad in the sense that I realized how easy it is to not give somebody that respect. Just by not thinking about their situation and just being like, "Oh, I'm really hungry, I want food," it's really easy to not give the person the respect that they deserve. And my last situation was a little ugly. I decided that I would actually listen to one of the people on Bruin Walk. I normally just walk by and ignore them, but I figured with this mantra of "I respect you," I'd at least give them the decency of stopping by and listening to whatever they had to say. And I would try to make it clear that I wouldn't necessarily agree in what they said, but at least I would listen to them. So I was stopped by that really aggressive Thai guy. He handed out Bibles and stuff. And I was like, "Okay, I'll listen to you." And he just kept on going and going. And as time went on, I tried to make it clear that I wasn't actually interested in what he was saying. I just wanted to, listen to him. But he completely ignored me and kept on going on his tirade of, Jesus will save your soul and all that other good stuff. And and then after a while, I felt that I wasn't being respected. That even though I had tried to acknowledge his right to have his opinion, his religious viewpoint, he wasn't acknowledging that I wasn't necessarily interested. So over the course of this experiment, I came to the realization that respect really is about acknowledgement. It can be as easy as acknowledging somebody's presence. I just smiled at the crossing guards. They smiled back. Both of our days were, I'd like to think, better. Acknowledgement can be as easy as thinking about somebody else's point of view. For example, just putting yourself in somebody else's shoe will really help in understanding them and understanding their actions. And lastly, I realized that respect really does have to be mutual. Even though I gave the Bruin Walk guy respect, he didn't give me any back. And so I don't know how he felt, but I certainly felt unhappier at the end of it. Overall, through this experiment, I came to believe that respect is about acknowledgement and recognizing that the person in front of you has their own thoughts, their own feelings, their own situations, and their own backgrounds.
Thank you. Thank you for waiting. Yes, please.
Hi, I'm Tiffany.
Hi, Tiffany.
I liked that it was very clear your introduction to conclusion that it was about acknowledgement. Then that was easy to follow. I also appreciated the way you mapped out crossing guards and then dining hall and then Bruin Walk people. So that also kind of I knew what was going to come and which one was the good, the bad, and the ugly. So that was good. And I think your pace was also really good and it was easy to follow.
Thank you, Tiffany. Improvement?
Hi, my name is Miriam.
Hi, Miriam.
So basically for improvement, first I just want to say something good. I really thought that you were really calm, you kind of made it really good, so I like that. But for improvement, I would say maybe change your voice a little, just a tiny bit, and maybe just move a little more. I don't know, I guess with your hands, or maybe just do a little step or something, and I think that would just make it a whole lot better.
Thank you, Miriam. Angelica, I liked your speech. I liked that you were thoughtful about defining it, and you came to the conclusion that it was about acknowledgement of something, a being or a quality, and so that was good. Your preview, I appreciate that you did the experiment in a very directed way, and by that I mean directed toward people that are normally ignored on our campus and in our society. And that was good. So it wasn't just, flashing people mantra as you walk down the street, but really directed toward a certain group of people. Crossing guard, as we heard from others, are neglected, and so I appreciate you getting the positive response that you did from them. On your chicken pizza and the lady acknowledging that you were patient customer, unlike the other students around here that feel entitled to instant chicken pizza and they don't have to wait. There's a real sense of entitlement around here that makes me very sad, and I see it a lot. And I appreciate you, waiting your turn and waiting, for it to come out. That was good. On the ugly, yeah. I guess, what did you call him? The Bible guy, or what is it? The tie guy, or the Bible guy, or what's whatever guy. Every campus has one or two of them that are just go off and they don't want to have a conversation or an interaction, but more of a monologue. And that's disrespectful and not taking a breath and saying, what do you think? And so I can understand why you felt disrespected. On your delivery, your hair is in your face, blocking your eye. I don't know what to do about it. I don't want to tell you to cut it or something, or pin it up or something, but you kept having to go up and do this a lot to get it out of your eye. So I'd do something about that. And then if you could move 3 times on each of your 3 points, that will relax you a little bit more and make you a more effective speaker. But overall, you did a nice job, and I really liked the way you directed your respect at groups of people. So thank you. Yeah. Okay.
You think it's gonna die? It's at 1:11.
1:11. Let's let it die. You may die, but that's life.
I may die?
You may die, but we'll see.
Well, I'd rather. Yeah.
We'll get as much of you as we can, but I'm trying to milk all I can out of my batteries. Okay, we're rolling.
Hi, I'm Karen.
Hi, Karen.
So, when I received this prompt, I thought to myself, okay, I don't think many people can do this, or do this well at least. And especially, I didn't really think I could do it. Because I think that most people don't think about respect when they wake up in the morning. We don't think, I respect you when we talk to our barista. We just want our coffee. We don't think, I respect you when we make love with someone. We especially don't think that when we're on our Tinder date. And so I think that people only think about respect when they're disrespected. So that will be my focus for most of my stories today. And what I learned about respect was from a very clever man that I relate to. He believed that respect can only be given to people who deserve it. And to some extent, I still believe that, although I can see that most people don't. And he also believed in getting respect. And that is my focus, too. Because I always feel like I'm disrespected. And so I will talk about that using 3 different stories, one highlighting the good, one highlighting the bad, and the last one, the ugly. And before I begin, I would like to tell you who this man was. This man was the Godfather, so keep that in mind. That is where I'm going with my speech today. The good. As everyone has already talked about, I acknowledge people who worked at restaurants or anybody passing by, just a stranger. People really appreciate it when you look at them right in the eye, as I'm doing right now, hopefully. And there's a restaurant called Profeta. It's a coffee shop. And they have a little sign that says, please do not look at your phone, we will not help you. And I agree with that, because most people do look at their phones a lot, and they don't even look at the worker. And I think they deserve that respect. And so I felt really happy, and I learned that mutual validation and acknowledgement of each other's presence, it's really good for self-worth, too. You feel good about yourself, they feel good about yourself. As for the bad, this happened at Jamba Juice. You know how Jamba Juice is. It's really busy, especially during the afternoon. And so I gave my order. It was a mega mango smoothie. And I waited there for about 10 minutes as well as everyone else. And I finally hear my name. I was so happy. I made a step forward towards the counter, and guess what? Someone to my left also moves forward. And I think to myself, I guess there's another Karen with a mega mango smoothie. I turn. This person looks at me. I look at him. And I'm thinking, oh, well, you know, I don't want to judge. Maybe his name is